Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to another All the WrestleManias. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
And we're excited to be back in the studio with you. We hope you enjoyed our recent episodes on WrestleMania 22 and our Demolition Profile and Badassery. We hope you had a good time listening to those. As always, you can find us on the interwebs at allthewrestlemanias.com. You can shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. You can find us on the Twitters at WrestleMania Pod. And of course, we have our very active and engaging Facebook and Instagram sites, thanks to Rich, our social media manager extraordinaire. So check those out for sure. We've continued to get some good comments, suggestions, requests for show reviews through our social media things. So if you're into that, shoot us a note. We'll probably review what you ask us to within limits. We got nothing else to do, literally. So for this episode, this is a Not Just WrestleManias episode. We're going back to 1989. We're going to take a look at WrestleWar 89 from May 7th from the Nashville, Tennessee Municipal Auditorium, the Music City Showdown. Attendance was around 5,200. Got Jim Ross and Bob Caudle on commentary. This was a show produced by WCW under the NWA banner, sort of similar to the Chi-Town Rumble, which was the previous pay-per-view for WCW, and the reason that we're reviewing this one.
Well, the reason why is because, one, it is the follow-up to the Chi-Town Rumble, and it features the third match between Ricky Steamboat and the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And woo! The first match at Chi-Town Rumble was a barn burner and possibly the best match that we've watched for this podcast. And the one on this one may beat it.
It's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. It also means we probably have to go back then and watch their second match, which was from Clash of Champions number, which one? 6.
Clash of Champions 6, yeah.
Yeah. So that the Chi-Town Rumble led us down the Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat rabbit hole, as it were, and then that led us to the WrestleWar 89. But it actually ended up being worth a watch, I would say. It's a little bit of a weird show, but there's some good stuff here. There's some dated stuff, and there's some strange choices, maybe, but overall, halfway decent.
Yeah, and it's fun to see the stuff that what's happening, because this is the birth of WCW still here. And the production value from the Chi-Town Rumble to this, there's a big improvement. It's not still as polished as the WWF's product, but it's very clear that that Ted Turner money is starting to flow in a little bit. There's a couple more camera angles. There's like an extra camera ringside. There's some pyro. There's entrance music that requires royalties. So there's a lot of interesting things. There's great clip art. The spiked banjo that they use as a logo for this event is a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I would buy a T-shirt with that on it. I need to do some web searching. Somebody has to have made a replica by now. I'm sure I can't afford an original, but there's got to be a replica out there. It's awesome.
Now, on the VHS cover of this program, that banjo is there, and it is covered in blood, so it's even more hardcore. The other thing is interesting is to put this in perspective, just so you get an idea of production quality comparisons. This was a month after WrestleMania 5. You can already see that there's such a clean, polished product coming out of WWF, because WrestleMania 5 is spectacular looking. It's clear. It's in a big arena. It has 19,000 attendees. So that gives you an idea also of the draw that WWF is pulling compared to NWA/WCW. But also they have Macho Man and Hulk Hogan, and they have entrances and camera. Cinematography is a lot better than what the WCW is pulling off. Like the WCW camera work still kind of looks like your grandpa holding the camcorder at your dance recital kind of look to it, as opposed to WWF has producers looking for camera angles to make the men look bigger, so they're shooting from below, especially when it's like Andre the Giant or Hulk Hogan. They want you to see these big personalities in a physically big presentation, while WCW and NWA, you just have kind of like, well, here's a guy rolling out to the ring, and the commentators tell you he's big. He doesn't necessarily look big because they're all big. WWF does a better job with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think by now too, the WWF guys are understanding a little bit better the role of the cameras and how they are being shot, and they're starting to play to it. With that's something that we've noted with, with Bret Hart and some other guys a little bit later in the sort of development of all this. They specifically go for particular setups or moves so that the camera can catch the best angle on it. So that's something that is not at all on the radar here for the for the talent in the
No,
WCW.
and it's
So
funny you mentioned that. Like that was even just in that one of the last episodes of Young Rock, where the debut of Rocky Maivia, and Vince was like, "You did a great job, but you didn't talk to the hard cam. You turned your back to the camera the entire time." Um, so it's definitely interesting that even like in fictional sitcoms, that perspective of WWF being camera aware and aware of how its product looks on television is prominent, as opposed to how WCW, it seems like the event is much more catered to the people that paid for a ticket to be there.
yeah, 100%. The other interesting thing that I noted in terms of contrast is real early on, like maybe right after the kind of opening commentary, there's a fan holding up a sign that says "NWA, we wrestle," which it tells you all you need to know about sort of the product that they're selling. That other thing is sports entertainment. It's soap opera. It's whatever it is. This is actual wrestling. This is the NWA. That's what you're going to get here. So I think that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, Jim Ross actually, during the Ric Flair Ricky Steamboat match, actually makes a comment that, and they're taking a shot at Hogan and the WWF, where Jim Ross says they're not out here posing with rock and roll music. That
Ouch.
this is the NWA, and that they're here to fight and they're here to wrestle. So there's already this concept of like WWF is, for the kids, it's kind of a circus act, and WCW, NWA is the real deal. This is where they really wrestle. And I mean, we even see that develop into like the slogan that Eric Bischoff drops on WCW with Nitro, that this is where the big boys play. And like their whole perspective, even then with Nitro, which is a couple years after this, where they're talking about how their guys fight under their real names, or at least real sounding names, and not so many gimmicky things like an IRS agent or a trash man or a pig farmer or a clown
Or a paramedic, as we
or
noted on our demolition episode.
a paramedic, the most terrifying gimmick of all.
They'll run an IV on your soul.
Oh no.
All right. So speaking of rock and roll versus the NWA, we get the national anthem by the Oak Ridge Boys. So it's a little harder. It's hard to think of kind of a more noticeable departure from the rock and roll Hulk Hogan. And the Oak Ridge Boys actually come back for a little mini concert. I think they did 7 or 8 songs. That is unfortunately not on the Peacock. Once again, royalties and the complications thereof strike again, causing us to miss some classic country music. We missed the Waylon Jennings show on the Wrestle Rock that we reviewed not too long ago, and now we have to miss the Oak Ridge Boys. God damn it.
It is funny that they're like taking shots at WWF with rock and roll and posing, and then they actually stop their wrestling show to do a concert with the Oak Ridge Boys. The Oak Ridge Boys nail it with the national anthem. It is a beautiful rendition.
They sound great. Yeah, they sound great.
It was interesting though that in the opening sequence of the show, it's just like the title cards, and they're like on the show, Ric Flair, the Road Warriors, the Oak Ridge Boys. Like, oh, who are the Oak Ridge Boys fighting tonight? I wonder.
I would watch the hell out of that. All 4 Oak Ridge Boys versus Dr. Death Steve Williams.
My money's still on Dr. Death Steve Williams.
Yeah, 100%. That guy's a beast. So I started to look. Did your dad listen to the Oak Ridge Boys? I feel like everybody's dad listened to the Oak Ridge Boys.
I'm pretty sure my dad probably still listens to the Oak Ridge Boys. So
I always mix them up with Alabama. Alabama perpetually played the York Fair, which was the big county fair where I grew up,
yeah,
and they were still playing there even after they had their like retirement tour. They still like hit the York Fair. And I if you stood Alabama and Oak Ridge Boys up next to each other, I couldn't tell you which was which. I don't mean that to demean them at all. They just weren't on my musical radar when it comes to country music. They're not in my wheelhouse. And so I started to do a little digging. I'm like, okay, so which are these the original Oak Ridge Boys? And then it got super complicated super quick, and I sort of gave up. I think this is 3 of the 4 originals, and then they had a replacement for one of the guys roughly from 87 to the early mid 90s, which would have overlapped with this show. And then that original guy came back. So my point was, I was trying to figure out if I needed to include any of them in the in memoriam, and so I I couldn't figure it out. So I apologize if we miss that when we get there.
yeah. I mean, it does look like there's been 30 members of the Oak Ridge Boys.
There's a lot.
Looking at their Wikipedia, but I mean, you also expect that when they've been active since 1947. That was their first recording back when Oak and Ridge were 2 words. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Like the one way that I keep them separated from other things is that the Oak Ridge Boys were also kind of gospel-y Christian country and not just country-ish. So,
Yeah, I do
uh,
remember that.
but these guys, man, they laid out a national anthem that was spectacular and very memorable. It was probably one of the best music performances that we've had in this podcast and shows that we're watching. And their Wikipedia, by the way, has an amazing graph on it trying to show you the lines of when certain people were members of the Oak Ridge Boys, and it's really hard to decipher. I don't like. Oh my god!
Which do you think has had more members over the years, the Oak Ridge Boys or Parliament and Funkadelic?
I feel like it's probably Parliament because everybody's been a member of Parliament at some
It's
point.
true.
I've been in Parliament probably,
I
and I
think we
didn't
were
even
both
know
in
it.
it. Yeah, we were in it at the same
Right?
time, right?
Like if you go to one of their shows, you're in the band now. I think they at least get you high enough to make you think that you've been in the show.
Yeah, I did see them actually. They came to the University of Maryland. It was amazing.
Yeah,
That was when Gary Scheider was still there in the diaper.
yeah.
It was awesome.
I saw them at Ram's Head in Baltimore probably 15 years ago now. At this point, and they went on stage at like 8:15, and I called it a night at 12:30, and they were still going. The dude in the diaper, spectacular diaper and Nikes. And so like you see a guy in diaper and Nikes, but then you also see him as a musician just calling the shots. He's calling who's taking solos, he's pointing out who's on the next song, he's calling the next song, because apparently they don't even go into the show with a set list. It seems like they're just like, let's do Flashlight now. And yeah, when I saw them, they did an approximately 45-minute rendition of Flashlight. They took such a long solo time period in there that we forgot what song they were playing. And then suddenly they came back to the head with the bump 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 bump
Yeah,
bump
back to the
bump bump.
groove. Yeah.
I was like, they're still playing Flashlight. Holy shit.
That's awesome.
It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I remember a similar experience. Gary Scheider, by the way, passed away in 2010. He was a brilliant musician.
Rest in
You know,
peace.
yeah, the diaper was a fun gimmick, and a lot of the guys in the band had this or that gimmick, but he was just absolutely a monster on the bass and band leader, like you said. So anyway, I feel like we're way off topic, but that's okay. Maybe we should actually get to the show. What do you think?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, it was a fairly short show, 2.5 hours, so we got a little bit of time in this
Yeah, we can
podcast to kill,
afford a
right?
diversion.
We can talk a
Plus,
little bit.
there's a good chance that some of these guys on the card were either in Parliament or in the Oak Ridge Boys at some point. So
I'm
it
pretty
all
sure Ric
ties.
Flair was in the Oak Ridge Boys. I'm pretty sure Flair was in there. You can hear in there like a lot of their songs, da, 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 woo, in the the back.
Yeah.
So
It's just like that. All right. First up on the card was Doug Gilbert, who is the brother of Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, who we'll see a little bit later, versus the Great Muta, who's managed by Gary Hart. Doug Gilbert is a last minute and I think super last minute replacement for
had
JYD
to be.
because JR announces it like at the top of the show. I tried to figure it out. It just said that JYD couldn't make it to the event. So I don't know if he got stuck at the airport. He nodded out in the bathroom somewhere. I don't know what JYD was doing. But I don't know that it would have been any more of an it probably would have been a worse match, honestly, if JYD had shown up for this.
He was busy filling in with Parliament, probably.
Yeah.
He got called in.
He was Dog Man in Parliament. A lot of people don't remember that. He would
Just dogging me, baby.
Bark over the tracks. Yeah. This is basically a 3-minute squash match for Muta, who looks amazing. He's got the red face paint with the black markings. He does some crazy stuff. My favorite thing in this match was when Muta does this flying crossbody over the top rope to the floor, and there's a fan like 2 feet away who completely misses it because he's mugging for the camera.
He suddenly looks over and realizes he's just missed the spot of the match, and like you can kind of see the disappointment on his face.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope he crashed his car on the way home too. What a rube.
Yeah, the Great Muta, announced as the Pearl of the Orient. Muta used to scare the crap out of me because this was the time period where I was watching WCW like Saturday show and like the WWF, and I didn't really know that there was a difference between them. I was just like, wrestling's wrestling, and it's all the same. They're everybody. I didn't know that there was different companies and stuff, and so like I would just like Muta would come out and be like, all right, that guy's scary. He's spraying shit in people's eyes and like he's doing crazy kicks. Like he is so fast. He does a beautiful moonsault to finish this match off. And you can tell that they're dragging this match out a little bit because it should have been done in 30 seconds. Like there's Great Muta versus Doug Gilbert. Come on. This should be done. I'll talk a little bit more about what I think happens with that. Muta obviously wins with the moonsault and a beautiful, beautiful match.
Yeah, it was an impressive win. He starts to whoop on Doug a little bit, and Eddie comes out to save his brother. JR calls a hip toss a European takeover in this match.
You got to get fancy. It's the pay-per-view. It's the pay-per-view. You got to be fancy.
I guess. Next up is a Flair promo. It's absolutely classic. Oh my God.
He is out of his goddamn mind.
What a maniac.
To beat the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
He's so good. I could watch those things all day long.
Oh my God. Him and Dusty. Just, geniuses. Geniuses.
Did you watch? So Rich and I both. Well, Rich found, and then I have followed on the No Context Dusty Facebook page, which posts these video clips of Dusty Rhodes promos. Just a new one every day, and they're incredible. He's high fiving a gorilla today. But the one that I really liked was I think it was a prank call. Somebody impersonating Dusty calls up Flair and starts insulting him and telling him he's gonna beat him and all that stuff. And Flair like just goes with it. He's like, "Well, let's do it, man. Let's do it." And he gets all amped up. That was great.
Yeah, they had a good one the other day with Magnum TA too. That was pretty spectacular. Dusty talking about how pretty they both are and stuff. So that is a good follow on Facebook. The No Context Dusty account is pretty brilliant.
Yeah, shout out to whoever's running that. Great job. Next matchup is Hacksaw Butch Reed versus Ranger Ross. So Ranger Ross is actually an Army Ranger. I looked this up. He served for eight years. He was in on the invasion of Grenada, apparently. And Hacksaw Butch Reed, of course, is an absolute unit and a just a beast of a man. They're about the same height, but Hacksaw has like 40 pounds of muscle on good old Ranger Ross there.
This match goes a little longer than what I thought it should, and I think that's because they took some time that would have been JYD versus Muta and added it onto this match. And so, because like Butch Reed and Ranger Ross are kind of looking gassed by by the time they end this match, and it's just kind of like, all right, guys, you should be done by now. But This was a good match too. I enjoyed this. Ranger Ross has breakaway camo pants, which I thought was
Yes. He does like a Rick Rude hip swivel at the beginning. I'm like, how is
yeah.
that part of your army gimmick? That doesn't make sense. Are you the sexy ranger? I don't
Yes.
know.
He's bringing it, and also he had a color guard bring him out. I was just like, that's good use of tax money. Yeah, send a color guard down to the arena to escort a wrestler out. That's good. Butch Reed's theme, though, boy, that was a sexy song. Uh, it's another sexy one. It's not quite Jake the Snake level, but I was jamming.
That's the one that should get your hips swiveling.
Yeah,
Not the color guard. Nobody swivels their hips to the color guard intro. What kind of freak does that?
no,
Sergeant Slaughter, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, he gets all hot off of that stuff.
Hacksaw is real slow and methodical throughout this thing. He's also healing it up a little bit. He uses a
Yeah,
foot on the ropes for leverage a bunch of times. He gets caught finally, like by the ref, but it's just kind of like your mom catching you stealing the extra cookie. She's like, "Hey, don't do that." And the end is kind of anticlimactic. He does like a diving shoulder block and then gets the pin.
I mean that was pretty, and it's an impressive shoulder block. Teddy Long rolls out to the ring at some point with a notepad, like he's building a stable because he's been fired as referee at this point because he was not on the up and up at the Clash of the Champions
What?
6. I know.
You are kidding me.
Playa wasn't being a good playa. So I did enjoy that during this match, the cameraman found like the 4 black people in the audience and showed them cheering. Like, just because they're black wrestlers doesn't mean you need to find the 4 black guys that are chilling in the audience for this show. But we appreciate the representation effort. Thank you.
Hashtag diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, good on those guys for coming down to downtown Nashville. I don't know. I don't know if I would have done that. Yeah, decent match. Moving on. Anything else to say about that one?
No.
I got a kick out of Teddy Long. And JR's
Yeah.
going on and on about how he's fired. He has no business being there, and he's like taking notes like he's scouting.
Yeah,
great.
he's got the Jerry curl going too. It's a lovely thing.
I love that guy. I wish
Yeah.
he was. I know he's kind of aged out, but I kind of wish he was still around.
He played like every role possible except for wrestler. It's great.
Yeah, he really did. Next up on the card here is Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch, which is an outstanding nickname, versus Cowboy Bob Orton, who could probably also be called Captain Redneck if you wanted to get technical about it. Cowboy Bob is with Gary Hart. This is a bull rope match. The commentary talks about Orton partying too hard the night before, maybe. I guess Cowboy Bob was a sort of known ganja enthusiast. His eyes were all red. That's what they were telling you anyway.
His arm is healed.
Miraculously.
He's not in a cast. What happened? I guess that pesky wrist break finally healed up for him.
Medical marijuana.
Yeah, CBD doing the Lord's work.
I was a little disappointed by this one. I was in for some old school violence, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Murdoch uses his boot as a weapon at one point, which sure,
was good.
Yeah, and then he sort of hog ties Orton with the bull rope for the pin.
Yeah, that was amusing. He like ties him up like a calf at the rodeo, and like and then pins him, which was fun. But yeah, I immediately was like, somebody better bleed. This is a bull rope match. I want to see that bell cut somebody, that because there's a giant cowbell on there, and then like Dick Murdoch didn't even wear ring gear to the ring for this, so it's like, yeah, somebody needs to bleed. Someone needs to get hurt in this match, and my bloodlust was left unfulfilled.
Yeah, tragic. Yeah, Dick Murdoch's dressed like he's going down to the Tractor Supply to pick up some fertilizer or something. He just, it's not even just
I wasn't
jeans
even
and
thinking
like
fertilizer. I was thinking he just needs to get more bird seed for his bird feeders out in the backyard. How tame this match was, because like Dick Murdoch is a badass. He's a Stan Hansen type, and it just didn't show up in this match, which kind of broke my heart.
Do you mean he has bad vision?
I mean that he likes to really hit people, but yeah, he probably does have bad vision too.
That's a callback to a previous episode. You guys have to go back and find that one. So most of the action actually happens after the win here. Gary Hart attacks Murdoch, and then Orton puts the rope around Murdoch's neck and tries to hang him from the ring. There's some mass chaos here. There's the ref trying to sort of hold Murdoch's weight up, which, good luck with that. JR keeps saying on the commentary, he says, there's going to be some fines levied for this one. So apparently
You're trying to kill a man. You just, okay, fine.
If you hang a man to death from a ring, you get a fine. So watch out. Michael Hayes is next with a promo.
Oh.
He's out to prove himself as a single talent. He says, I don't, maybe you can explain this to me. He says, remember this, Lex Luger, if it wasn't for people like you, there wouldn't be people like me.
I mean, I'm pretty certain that was like Michael Hayes' like big catch line, right? I think. But yeah, so like Lex Luger cut the most boring promo possible before the previous match. And it's just he just kind of lingers there, and he just kind of like talks like how he's a good guy, and like Michael Hayes is trouble, and he's never able to like really do his own thing. But I mean, what do you expect from a guy born on Bad Street, USA? So, but then Michael P.S. Hayes, I don't know what the P.S. stands for. We should try and find that out one day. Anyway,
pretty sexy, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it stand for pretty sexy?
Does it? Okay.
I think so.
Michael Pretty Sexy Hayes. I'm going to say that now for now on, like Macho Man with Art Donovan.
You gotta say the whole thing.
Yeah. If like he does then in that promo, and like the promo is super energetic because he talks about like how he doesn't need Terry Gordy and stuff like that, and other Freebirds to help him. He's his own man now, and he's going to win this on his own. And he's going to prove Lex Luger wrong. And that just remember, if it weren't for people like you, there wouldn't be people like me. I mean, it was a devastatingly good line, but it's like, I don't know what he's really referring to either.
So is Lex Luger his dad? Is that what he's saying?
That's the only logical conclusion you need to make at this point.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's purely sexy, not pretty sexy.
Oh, purely sexy. My
mistake.
It's like, I'm pretty sexy.
I'm moderately sexy.
Michael M.S. Hayes.
Michael fair to midland sexy.
Michael solid 6 sexy Hayes.
Michael leave the lights off Hayes. Anyway,
Michael, let's do it from behind Hayes.
Sweet Jesus. This is our most X-rated episode to date. We're gonna have to mark it explicit on the iTunes, and then we're never gonna get any listeners. All right, let's talk about some actual wrestling.
Let's talk about the Oak Ridge Boys some more then, maybe.
It's almost like you don't want anyone to listen to this show.
Shush.
There's some actual wrestling coming up.
Some
really good wrestling.
Good wrestling, yeah.
It's the Samoan SWAT team, which is Samu and Fatu, with Paulie Dangerously, that's Paul Heyman, versus the Dynamic Dudes, Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas. Man, so Fatu, of course, is Rikishi. Samu is another of the family. Paulie gets some amazing heat.
Oh my God!
Introduction. The fans are so fucking pissed. They ain't having it.
Well, I mean, at the Clash of the Champions 6, which we've jumped over, Paulie and the Samoan SWAT team have sent Jim Cornette's Midnight Express packing. They thoroughly defeated them. And in the South, you beat the Midnight Express. You're in trouble. People don't like you. That's all you have to do is beat the Midnight Express, and you're instant mega heel. And that is what Paulie Dangerously has done. I don't really like the name the Samoan SWAT team. I guess they couldn't call them they can't call them the Wild Samoans or just the Samoans probably, but come up with something else. At least in WWF,
it doesn't make any sense.
With the Head Shrinkers, which is moderately offensive of a name, Head Shrinkers, but it's something than Samoan SWAT team, like
Samoan Death Squad, right. Samoan Strike Force. SWAT team definitely indicates police, and that's not their vibe.
Yeah, the announce team actually says that they need an animal trainer to deal with these two.
Yikes!
Yee. And it helps too that the Dynamic Dudes who they're fighting are super over, and they basically look like the Rock and Roll Express mixed with Bart Simpson. Yeah.
They're super generic. They have blonde mullets. They carry skateboards to the ring, even though both of them are way too old to be carrying skateboards around. Didn't you find something fun about Shane Douglas when you're looking at this?
His initial entry into wrestling, his first gimmick was as Paul Orndorff's nephew, Troy Orndorff.
Hilarious.
And it's interesting because Troy is Paul Orndorff's actual son's name. So I don't know if it was coincidental or the intentional, but interesting gimmick because Paul Orndorff needs a nephew. And I mean, this was common through like these Southern wrestling territories because like Ric Flair at one point was Arn and Ole Anderson's cousin, and like Ole and Arn were supposedly brothers, but they're not.
Yeah.
So like this like whole concept of like fake family thing, and then even WCW continued that when they got into more of the modern era stuff, and because they said that the Big Show, when he was
Yeah.
debuted as the Giant, they said he was Andre the Giant's son, and Big Show actually talks about how heartbreaking it is still to this day that people remember that, and people come up to him and say how much they loved his father in the ring and how great and talented his father was, and he's just like, he wasn't my dad, it was a work. Please stop doing this to me. So
Yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, so Rikishi here looks like a baby with a mustache. He's like, what did you say he is? He's like 20,
he's 24 in this
24.
match. Yeah,
Yeah, he's not small obviously, but he's super young. And these guys really, they go to work. Like they're fast, they're clean, they're strong. There's
they're
some
like machines. It's
it's
incredible.
incredible. One of the dynamic dudes, I didn't differentiate between the two
You
of them.
can't
It
tell
doesn't
the
matter.
difference between them.
He does a leapfrog and it catches a super kick to the face, like right at the end of it, which is
Yeah.
amazing. The ref, one of my favorite parts was the ref yells at Fatu and he makes like nonsense noises back at him, like an angry squirrel.
Yeah.
The ref is telling him to quit doing whatever he's doing, and he goes,
And at one point, Samu is drooling intentionally, like
yeah.
large amounts of drool all over one of the dynamic dudes in the pin. And so, like, they're really leaning into this whole thing because, like, JR calls them savages. I noted that Samu actually kind of looked like Jack Black and Nacho Libre in this match. I think it's the hair. It's like the big frizzy hair, I think,
Yeah, he totally
from
does.
like uh, Paul E through this entire match though is also being brilliant on the outside of the ring. He's taking phone calls during the match. He's talking shit to the people in the front row. At one point, for some reason, he grabs the mic while I think Shane Douglas is like being held down like a Boston crab. He grabs the microphone from the timekeeper and just screams, "You're as useless as a woman from Nashville, Tennessee."
Ouch.
Yeah, like, oh my
Just in
god, this
case you
is
needed more heat on top of the beating to midnight.
right. Right, like, Paul, there isn't a lot of protection for you between the front row and this, like, all there is that famous NWA, like, narrow gauge fence kinda thing that's just, like, two poles welded together. It's not really good for protecting you. But there are some actually good moves in this match, we should
There's a
say.
lot of
That
good
it's
moves.
not.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot of good moves here. They beat up on Johnny and keep him from the tag for a long time,
yeah.
and they just keep grinding him down. Fatu does a really nice big splash.
Oh,
Johnny
that thing
makes the
was
save.
beautiful. It was like perfect form.
That was great.
There's no way that felt good on his knees. Ooh, good God. He was young though, so. And they did a double face break for a double team, which was interesting. Like they both like are standing there like holding his face and then like just rip off at it. Like, ugh. I had never seen that done as like a double team move. And Fatu does a really, really impressive and very, very stiff short arm clothesline on Shane Douglas too at one point that I wouldn't have gotten up from if I had taken that. I like it was just mean. Like he followed through. It looked like JBL's clothesline from hell, but a little stiffer.
Yeah, these are great. I wasn't necessarily expecting these guys in the card here, and they really they bring it. The finish is Fatu picks up Shane for a pile driver, but Johnny comes jumping off the top with a drop kick, and then Shane sort of drops on top of Fatu for the win. I just wrote, "Hot damn, that was a good that was a good
Yeah,
finish,
it was
great
a good
match."
finish, and the crowd fucking explodes. Crowd loves the dynamic dudes, and I think mainly it's because they hate Paulie and the Samoan SWAT team so much that it could have
Yeah,
been two jobbers getting this win, and they would have like freaked the fuck out. So it was great. This was a really good tag match.
yeah, fantastic heels. Next up, we've got an interview with Luthez, Pat O'Connor, and Terry Funk, who are going to be the judges for Flair versus Steamboat. So it's got a 60-minute time limit on that match, but if it does go to 60 minutes, they're going to have judges at ringside to render a decision. So this is a not all that frequently used gimmick for matches, but it's kind of a cool one. This I think this is actually a brilliant placement for this because it made me hype for the match. Like it's not even coming up yet, and I'm like, oh man,
Yeah,
now I really got to see this. Um,
yeah. This interview is actually space filler for This Is Where the Oak Ridge Boys concert would have happened
God
if we
damn it!
were watching it live. So we would have been blessed with some 4-part harmonies and some gospel tastings here, but we get to look at Luthez and Terry Funk and what's his name, Pat O'Connor, Connell,
Yeah,
Pat. Yeah,
Pat O'Connor.
they said his name like 15 times, and I still didn't get it. So I apologize.
So he's from New Zealand. He was a huge
Yeah,
wrestling legend there. He's born 1924. So he actually died the year after this was shot. And Luthez, of course, absolute legend, died 2002. Terry Funk is still kicking despite all odds, but he's of a different generation than those two guys. But it was cool to see him here. I feel like Luthez probably could have come out of retirement and torn half of these guys in half with his bare hands if he wanted to.
probably. Yeah,
He still looks
definitely.
tough. He looks tough. He looks like my great grandfather on my dad's side, Robert Becker, was in the army in the um I guess it would have been I guess it would have been between the world wars even. That's how old he was. But even at like 85, he was like just a badass looking motherfucker. And Luthez kind of looked
Mm.
like him. Um I feel
Yeah,
like
Thez still looks ring ready.
he
Like
does.
he's ready to
He
get in
does. He
there.
looks great. All right, next up is P.S. Hayes, Purely Sexy. Michael Purely Sexy Hayes. Don't forget. With Hiro Matsuda as his manager versus Lex Luger. This is the United States Heavyweight Championship match. I don't know. Hayes is doing his
Both
best.
men look like roast turkeys.
They're gross. They're so gross. Hayes is like all brown and greased, but he's also really hairy. So usually like you get the
It's
shave
a
at least.
Come on, it's a good look. It's a
It's
good
not
look
a
for
good
him.
look.
It's no, it's a good look for his gimmick and character. Like it's good, and it's a good contrast against Luger, who is ultra shaved, probably never had a piece of body hair in his life, and is just like muscles on muscles, like He-Man. Like he looks like an action figure. Like he probably has like a rubber band and in his waist that keeps him from snapping apart. And like, yeah,
There there are no body hair removal salons on Bad Street, USA.
no, they have body hair adding salons on Bad Street USA.
That's disgusting. Get get like chest and stomach hair implants. I don't know. Did you like this match?
For a Luger match, I did. So like I'm not the biggest fan of Lex Luger's ring work, but I thought he did a good job of selling to Hayes, and Hayes is also doing a great job of drawing heat by stalling and like constantly bouncing out of the ring to get the fans angry at him for not fighting. Luger does do a pretty spectacular spot for a big guy where he went for a big flying crossbody or clothesline or something, and they end up both just going over the top rope in a very ugly, nasty fashion.
Yeah, that was great. I like that one.
He does some super impressive military presses because Michael Purely Sexy Hayes is not a small guy, and he just keeps lifting him over his head and doing massive military presses with him. The cameraman during this match became infatuated with this young lady that was in a beret with crimped
I
hair
saw her.
and like
Yeah.
a low cut white top. Like, and she even like keeps looking at the cameraman like, why are you looking at me? Kind of like thing. Leave me alone. And I really like the finish to this match too.
Yeah, it's a little chaotic. The other move that I noted was Hayes tries this bulldog, but Luger sort of uses his momentum against him and kind of like launches him across the ring. That was pretty great.
Yeah.
He does a bunch of like power moves like that, like you said. Yeah, the ending is kind of chaos. So Lex bumps so Hayes is tied up in the rope. Lex bumps the ref and sort of gets knocked down in the scuffle. And then Terry Gordy comes out of nowhere and sort of pushes Hayes over off of the ropes where he's hung up. So he lands on top of Lex, and the ref, of course, wakes up just to get the count. And that gives Hayes the win and the belt in a sort of disputed finish there.
They have a head collision and the ref is in the way too. So like they both are kind of like knocked out from the head bumps. And Luger lands flat on the mat, and Hayes lands onto the ropes and is kind of like just propped up on the ropes. And Gordy comes out of nowhere and pushes him, and like JR starts flipping out. He so much for wanting to do it on your own. I thought he wanted to do this on his own. I can't believe it's a good finish for this kind of match, and it's really a great example of Michael Hayes solo stuff. It's good stuff. Sorry, Michael Purely Sexy Hayes.
Yeah, please. They'd actually continue that feud, and Lex Luger would take the belt back after only like 14, 15 days, something like that. So Purely Sexy didn't hold on to it too much longer, but they would keep on fighting about it. So next up is a promo from Sting, who's super amped and super smiley.
I couldn't even figure out what the hell he was saying.
I don't know what the hell he was talking about. He was talking about how he loves seeing all the fans jumping around and doing crazy stuff. And he gives a couple of woos. I just wrote that methamphetamine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, he is amped.
He's hopped up on something. I don't know. I know he's a super Christian and probably not into the drugs, but he certainly seems to be tweaking a little bit here. That is a lead-in to Sting versus the Iron Sheik, who's managed by Rip Morgan. I don't know what the fuck. This is the NWA World Television Championship match. I don't. Why?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of crazy things happening here. So before Sting actually comes out of the curtain, a herd of children in WrestleWar t-shirts and makeup come running down the aisle too with him before he shows up. And it's kind of weird. And like some of them were with their mom. And so it kind of had like this like Bill Murray and Kingpin feel to where like Bill Murray's character, like as like a side plot, has been adopting all these children or like sponsoring all these children that come from single moms, kind of thing. It was kind of a weird feeling to it. And I looked it up that this is probably Sheik coming back into wrestling after his cocaine arrest with Jim Duggan. I think that was in just like the year before this, and WWF had cut him free from that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that like it seems like everybody was more upset that Sheik, who was a heel, was riding with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who was a face. More people were more upset about that than the cocaine that he was caught with and going to jail for.
That was a big deal. I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest sort of public incidences of breaking kayfabe like that.
Yeah.
In that era when that was not a thing that you did, sort of on pain of getting kicked out of the business, which he kind of did for the better part of a year or more.
It was interesting too that Sheik insisted on being introduced as a former champion, though he didn't have any entrance music and he didn't sing the Iranian national anthem or do any kind of like feats of strength or anything like that. But it was funny that he was like insisted on being introduced as a former world champion. It's like, you weren't a world champion here in WCW/NWA. So where were you world champion? Like, I don't think they want to acknowledge you being world champion there.
We contractually we can't say it, but just
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't look great. Like he still looks like tough as hell, right? He still looks like,
oh my God,
your uncle at the barbecue with like the muscles and the gut. And he's very,
like the gut's really hard. Like,
yeah, the gut's hard.
Is it a tumor? Like,
no one knows.
How do you
don't punch it
like
though?
That? I want to
I
look
don't
like
know.
that. I'll take that look over mine look. So
This is
this is
over in
a
like 2 minutes.
yeah. Yeah, it's a weird pairing for a match. Like if someone told me that Sting and the Iron Sheik had a match, I would have been like, "You're fucking lying. There's no way that match ever happened." But it did, and we watched it. And Sheik got a little bit of offense, but it's really just him attacking Sting before the bell with the flag and choking him with his headpiece, and then suddenly the Sheik is in the corner, takes a Stinger splash, and then suddenly he falls down and he's in the Scorpion Deathlock and loses. Like one, the Sheik taps out, like he gives up to a submission move. That's craziness. So what the hell's happened here? And then two was like the Sheik is a world champion, and this match is over in 2 seconds. Like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a little unusual. 2 minutes, 12 seconds, bell to bell. But that does get us to a Ricky Steamboat promo. So if you like Ricky Steamboat, I highly recommend our Chi-Town Rumble episode because you get to hear Rich do his impression of Ricky Steamboat's promos, and the world's most low key promo. But he's actually a little more animated here than before. So he's been working on it, I think.
He's
He
not
still
so nervous,
He's not
I
as
think.
nervous. He still
Yeah.
sounds nice and friendly, though. He still sounds
Yeah.
like he's inviting you to the barbecue, not to an ass kicking. He's just like,
Right.
well, I respect Flair, and we're going to have a good match, and I'm going to win this time, and I'm going to blah blah blah.
Yeah, he just kind of like talks, and then I was upset because his little chubby baby isn't there in this promo. I'm like, where's the baby?
He
I want to
always
see
has the
the
baby.
I want to see the chubby baby in the karate gi. Come on. But I
Well,
didn't have to wait long.
yeah, just hold on. Don't spoil it for yourself. So that does get us to what we're just going to go ahead and call the main event of this card. It's
The
not
real
in
main
the
event.
it's not in the main event spot, but I don't know what they were smoking over there at WCW. But this is Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Again, this is their third big matchup, and we're going to have to go back and watch Clash of Champions for their second big matchup. I don't think there's any way around it. But this is for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Ricky has the belt. Flair is the challenger. Flair gets introduced first, of course, in his robe, his magnificence. He has like 40
He has
women
40 women come with him to the ring.
around the ring. When they get a shot out of him, none of them are wearing bras. None of
And
them.
it was cold in that arena. They jacked up the AC before they all came out.
And then, of course, by contrast, here comes Ricky with his wife and his kid. And this time his fat baby is wearing a cowboy outfit and riding a pony, which is totes adorbs. I don't know which I like better, fat baby in a karate gi or fat baby in a cowboy outfit. I don't know.
I mean, the pony puts it over, right? Like because now Ricky has made the money winning the title. He can buy his baby a pony, and
He can't ride it though. They have a trainer leading the pony. That baby is useless. He's a fake cowboy.
How is this not the main event? This is so much spectacle. Like Ric Flair comes out with his also Brock Zarathustra and the sequined robe and
80
40
nipples.
women, right? 80 nipples poking out eyes on the way down. And then the turkey's done for sure. Look at that. And then you have Ricky Steamboat showing up with his wife in an evening gown and his chubby little baby riding on the back of a pony.
And 3 judges just in case,
And 3 judges, 3
Fucking
huge named judges.
Luthez sitting there watching
Right.
Ricky Steamboat's fat fake cowboy baby.
You drag Luthez to Nashville for mid-card action? Come on. Maybe the main event was happening after his bedtime or something, but
Maybe.
I don't understand. How is this not the main event?
The contrast is very telling, obviously. And they did this for their Chi-Town run too. It's like it's the family man, the devoted, just down to earth good guy versus the dirt
The style and profile and
Yeah.
womanizer.
Jet flying, limousine riding, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, etc., etc. So I'm expecting some really fast, clean, technical action, lots of momentum shifts, and I think this match freaking delivers. Like,
This match gives everything.
it's a little over half an hour long. They don't get to their full 60-minute time limit, so they don't have to use the judges. But man, I don't even know, where do you want to start? Like, there's a couple of they start by slapping each other in the face.
Yeah.
We'll just say that part.
They slap each other, and then like it's interesting. So it's very much like a Kurt Angle kind of style match too, where they're like both doing technical grappling holds and stuff like that. And then when they can't get the advantage, they fall back in the chops. And every single time that they fall back in the chops, everything breaks down and it goes into chaos. Like a few minutes into this match, and then suddenly they're chopping each other back and forth, and both of them are putting on these amazing facials of anger and aggression, and they're chasing each other around the ring just to land these chops. And it is something I've never seen before. The way every single one of those exchanges happens, and it happens like 5 or 6 times throughout this match, to where just everything stops and it's time to do some chopping in the woodshed. Like it's so good.
It's almost like punctuation for the match, you know? It's like it's setting apart the different segments. Maybe we should go back and diagram it a little bit and like you kind of write down what happens between those chop sections. But yeah, that first one is the one I'm like, "Oh shit, this is going down," because they chop each other in every single corner of the ring, and they hit a few of the side ropes just for good measure. After that, they go to a sort of a test of strength kind of thing, and Ricky gets the best of Flair in that one, sort of forces him down to the mat. So all of this, Flair is doing his amazing vocal selling that we've noted before. He's
Oh
like, "Oh god,
God!
oh god."
Oh, oh no, no! Oh God! Oh yeah. There's the one moment where Ricky has him in like a pretty rough arm bar, and the ref is like in Flair's face. Do you give up? And you hear, "No, God damn it!" come out of Flair. It's so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
and
was
like
great.
Steamboat's actually given us some vocalizing too, with some grunts and kind of stuff too. And these guys just give us everything. I don't understand like how this is so good. It's just it's mind-boggling how good of a match this is.
There's a couple of really great exchanges. Again, this is relatively early on. Steamboat drop kicks Flair. Beautiful drop kick, tosses him right out of the ring. Then Steamboat gets tossed through the ropes, and he hits the floor and like bounces right back in. Like he like springboards
Yeah.
basically off the concrete and like bounces back up, and it goes right at Flair. He ends up on top of Flair on the turnbuckle and with the punches, and the crowd is losing its mind for those punches. Flair flips upside down in the corner and gets stuck upside down, so he gets wailed on in the midsection for a little bit. A couple of times, somebody gets tossed over the top ropes, which of course is a disqualification in the NWA, but the ref can rule that whether it was intentional or not intentional. So they rule it that it's not intentional. It kind of keeps going. They fight on the floor for a bit. Ricky gets chopped over the rail,
Yeah.
and Flair goes to get a chair, but the ref stops him. Then they chase each other around the ring, and Ricky comes off the top rope with a chop, and Flair does his just amazing face bump, where he staggers around and just
Yeah.
falls over like a tree on his face. Ugh, this man, I
Yeah,
kind of
Steamboat does amazing selling in that bit where he gets chopped over the rail into the fans. He does some selling that is so good at getting sympathy from the fans. He's like actually laying his head in the laps of the front row as like Flair is beating on him. And you can see it, and like he's just got these like sad and pained facials right in the faces of the fans. And oh my God, it just melts you. It just destroys you. And then after that whole sequence, Ricky climbs the ropes, but not in the corner. He climbs the ropes in the middle and jumps off of them onto Flair. Like I've never seen anybody do that. Like he
yeah.
just climbs them. Uh, like he's not at the turnbuckles or anything. He just climbs the middle of the ropes, just one foot in front of the other, right on up like a
Like a freaking ladder. Yeah, just right up.
right, like ninjas himself right on up. And I had to pause. I rewound and watched that again just because it was so amazing to see. I've never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah, it's incredible. They get back up in the ring, and there's it's, again real like fast and furious. Ricky goes out over the top ring after Flair ducks a flying crossbody. Flair drops that knee to the head. Just it looks so tough. He's a master at that one. That's one of his signature moves. There's a really good collision, and both guys flip over the top rope together. Um, Ricky slams Flair off of the top turnbuckle. I wrote down there's so many reversals it just is exhausting.
Yeah,
And the crowd is only getting hotter as it goes along. Like you would think they would kind of be like burned out, but they just keep like it just keeps going up. Like they go to 11
yeah,
and then keep going. There's a superplex off the ropes. Ugh, beautiful.
yeah. And Flair's heel tactics are pretty spectacular. There's one moment where Steamboat is down near the ropes, and the ref doesn't count the pin because Steamboat's arm is underneath the rope, so he's out of bounds. And Flair is angry, and so while he's arguing with the ref, he has his leg across Ricky Steamboat's throat, choking him. And like Steamboat is flipping out, he can't do anything, and the ref is just like arguing with Flair during it. It's such a good moment. It's so dirty.
He
And
has
I
another
just
good. He has another good one when Steamboat goes up to the top, but Flair like jerks the rope, and Ricky falls actually
yeah.
off not just to the ring, but to the floor,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
quote unquote injures his leg there. And then of
Yeah.
course Flair goes to work on that leg immediately and gets him into the figure four. There's some we're getting close to the end here. There's
He's
a
in that
sort of
figure four forever.
yeah, just hanging on, and, torturing that leg. Flair sort of so the finish, Flair kind of blocks a scoop slam and flips it into an inside cradle because Ricky's knee is, his leg is shot, right? He can't do he can't lift their weight, and so that's how he gets the roll up and then the pin. So it's a really again a smart, fast, technical, blink and you miss it kind of finish to a match that's just full of those kinds of moments.
How do people not remember Ricky Steamboat's chops? Like Flair is famous for the chops and the woo and stuff like that, but like Steamboat's chops were just as vicious and just as loud and just as beautiful as Flair's. And just as much as part of his attack and like offense as it is for Flair, but no one's talking about Steamboat chops. They're always talking about Flair chops. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a travesty. It's incredible. The other move that he does that I think he does better than anybody else is that arm drag takedown. Like I'd rather watch him do
Oh,
that than
yeah, it's so
literally
clean.
anybody else in the business. And I like the constant like motion from him. Like he's always clapping his hands and popping his shoulder and like uh just constantly like you
Yeah.
get the sense of this guy's just got so much energy to burn. He like every move just like flips around into the next move, and he can't wait to get to it. He's like slapping his shoulder like he just can't in anticipation of the next arm drag.
Yeah, and like he knows where he's going. He's got the next 3 moves already calculated in his head, it seems like. And there's no wasted motions with anything either. So it's like arm drag takedown right into the arm bar, into the wrist lock. It's just spectacular stuff. Like and Flair and Steamboat, man, you just don't get that kind of chemistry in the ring anymore, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something about their styles are just a perfect match. Perfect. They both can do technical, and then they can both turn around and chop and get vicious and violent. Um, Ricky is the ultimate face, the ultimate good guy, and Flair is the ultimate heel, the ultimate bad guy. And even their looks, Ricky is sort of dark haired and sort of muscular. Flair's a little more lean and blonde and a little bit taller, and so it's just like this perfect yin and yang. This collision of opposites, and they put on such a good thing. So we still don't really know how this is not the main event, but we are going to have to move past it. Going to have to get over it, I think. Anything else you want to say about this match before we talk about the after match section?
No, just man, this was a doozy of a match, and damn, I don't,
As
I
Ron
don't know.
Simmons would say,
Yeah,
I kind of want to go watch it again now that we're done talking about it.
I know, me too.
Hmm, maybe after lunch.
Yeah,
So there's some celebration in the ring. celebrating, Flair's win. He actually does a pretty nice sort of acknowledging Steamboat as a serious competitor, sort of a once-in-a-lifetime not jerk moment for Ric Flair. But then our ringside judge, supposed to be objective, Terry Funk, comes up and interrupts because he wants to be next. Flair sort of nicely kind of puts him off. He's like, "Oh, you haven't been training for a while. Why don't we?" But Terry ain't having it.
Yeah, so like he hops in the ring to congratulate Flair and then challenges him, but then Flair lands a real subtle passive aggressive attack. He says that there's a line of challengers to the belt. There's proper rankings that we need to follow, and you've been out in Hollywood with Sylvester Stallone, and you can't, and so you're not in the line for the challenge, but we can get you in there, and and like things, and then like Terry then backs off, is like, I didn't really want to challenge you, and then he jumps him. He sucker punches him on the handshake because he acts like he understands that he can't be in line to challenge. And then Flair takes a pile driver on a table that doesn't break. A
Brutal.
rough bump. And then Terry Funk calls him a horse-toothed banana-nosed jerk.
Wow. Yeah, he throws a table on top of Flair too, and then attacks him with a chair.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's rough. So I just looked it up. This is May 7th, 1989. Terry Funk's masterpiece of cinema with the one and only St. Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse, came out May 19th of 89. So like 2 weeks after this event, Roadhouse debuted in the cinemas. So just for you St. Patrick aficionados out there.
Or Terry Funk plays himself, basically.
He does.
Yeah.
Stay out of it, Dad. That's his best line.
It's a great line and a great movie.
It is the movie. Okay. So before we have another Oak Ridge Boys moment, we should probably move on. So there's 2 tag matches to wrap this thing up. Both of them feature members of the Varsity Club. So the first match is Mike Rotunda and Dr. Death Steve Williams with Kevin Sullivan.
Nikita Koloff promo.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, he cuts a promo as being the guest referee, and it is the worst fucking Russian accent you would ever hear in your life. It sounds more like Elmer Fudd with a sore throat, kind of.
Yikes!
Like it's. I will call this match fairly, and it will be fair, and it will be down the line, and you cannot intimidate me.
So he just has a lisp, basically.
Yeah, Nikita Koloff is not from Russia. If you
What?
Don't worry, he's not really Russian at all.
He's actually from Minnesota, which we talked about on our Demolition episode. He worked at the same bar as Barry Darsow and ended up in the same wrestling school with him. And then they ended up together in, let's see, GCW and then Mid-South, right? As Russian heels. So, so I missed that. I don't know how I missed that. I must have taken a bathroom break or something.
Yeah, you were in the potty.
I was. But he is the guest referee here because they're expecting this match to be just so out of control. And I mean, they're sort of right. Yeah. So Varsity Club with Kevin Sullivan in their corner, who is also a member of the Varsity Club, which that's not really fair, versus the Road Warriors with their manager, Paul Ellering. This is the World Tag Team Championship match. It's a short one. It's a violent one.
Yeah.
It's the second time that we've seen Dr. Death in with the Road Warriors, and the second time that the ring has managed not to collapse under the weight of them.
Yeah, I mean, this match falls apart really quickly, and the crowd loses its goddamn mind. Like, they're just bananas. And I really don't even know what the hell was going on. I know at one point, Nikita, who is the guest referee, kicks Kevin Sullivan out of the match. He sends him to the locker room. The Road Warriors get introduced and come in really hot. They don't even take off their garb, which I don't know if you noticed was black with silver spikes. Kind of reminiscent of Demolition. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
Road Warriors were trying to be Demolition, not Demolition trying to be the Road Warriors, people.
Bunch
Think
of
about that.
jerks.
Think
Yeah,
about that.
they jumpstart it while the fireworks are still going off, which seems a little
Yeah.
bit dangerous, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sullivan starts shit with the ref like almost immediately and gets ejected. So he's not a very good manager. You gotta, you gotta be a little more subtle about it, man.
Yeah, and then Steve Williams gets in the face of Nikita, and then eventually the match ends because like Nikita goes outside of the ring and gets jumped by Dan Spy or right
Yeah, that's right.
by Dan
Spivey and
Spivey
Sullivan.
and Kevin Sullivan, who came back out like 3 minutes after being kicked out. And they team up on Nikita and they beat the crap out of him, and the Road Warriors and everybody are beating everybody up. Everything goes to shit, which is sad because I wanted to see Mike Rotunda work, and I wanted to see Steve Williams work, and I wanted to see the Road Warriors work. But nobody really works in this match. It's just we could have seen this brawl at like any Nashville hot chicken stand. And then
Yeah, about 2 a.m. after the bars close. Just go on
yeah,
down.
the Road Warriors win by disqualification, and then a odd cover of Iron Man by Black Sabbath is played for their theme
Right?
song.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I thought it was
No,
sort of the Road Warriors theme, maybe, but it's clearly a ripoff or just a really bad cover of Iron Man.
yeah,
Um, there's a couple of moments from Rotunda. He gets a beautiful drop kick early on, and he tries a crossbody and gets like reversed into a power slam. That was really tough. Dr. Death gets nailed with the Doomsday device, but then of course Dan Spivey comes down and beats up the ref, and that's no good for anybody. So the Road Warriors get the win by DQ, but no belts, of course. We rip off Iron Man. One of two tag matches down to wrap this thing up. These are out of order. Like, I know that the Road Warriors were the hottest thing ever, but like this should have gone before that Flair and Steamboat match.
we were talking about this a little bit where so like WWF has moved towards the big single personalities being the draw, right? Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, the single Ultimate Warrior, even single competitors are the big draw, and it's probably because their merchandise sells better. While in everything else, it's more men in the ring equals more interest, more fan pop, more money, more attendance, right? The more people you can put on the card, the more it draws. So like even if you look at like WrestleMania 1, it's a bunch of matches, and then the main event is a tag match with Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff and Mr. T and stuff. So I think it's still that kind of thinking happening here. Like Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, even though they've been putting on barn burners of matches and are huge draws in NWA/WCW's eyes and booking, they're not as big of a draw as the Road Warriors or as Varsity Club, because Varsity Club is a 4-man stable. It gets lots of people in the ring and causes the chaos, which is what people love, supposedly.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and it goes again to sort of the difference that we've noticed before, which is the NWA is still here for the live audiences, right, and getting people to buy tickets to come to the shows. WWF is increasingly about the television exposure, so you don't need 4 guys when you can have 2 guys, right?
Right.
That does bring us to the last match. We've got the other 2 members of the Varsity Club. That's Dangerous Dan Spivey and Kevin, I don't look anything like a wrestler, Sullivan, versus the first family of professional wrestling. That's Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner with Missy Hyatt. This is for the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. So this was supposed to be a hair versus hair match, but then at the beginning of this show, they announced that stipulation has been removed because I guess of the intense personal rivalry between these guys, and the NWA is not going to sanction that particular stipulation. I don't know. That didn't really make any sense to me, but this is the story they do here is a little bit interesting. So Eddie and Kevin Sullivan start in the ring. But every time somebody's in the ring, the other member is outside beating on Rick Steiner, who apparently can't
Yeah.
defend himself.
Well, I mean, Dan Spivey is a big son of a bitch.
He's huge. 6'8" is what they say.
Like the dude is just like towering over everybody, and he's muscular, and like he's like it's like Dolph Lundgren hanging out in the corner during a little person match. Like everybody else, this is dwarfed by him, and he he immediately jumped Steiner on the outside of the ring and like slammed him shoulder first into the ring post like 5 times. I think he was only supposed to do it once, but the cameraman kept not getting switched to show it, so he kept doing it until the cameras got it. And then he just left Steiner there for dead. And in the meantime, Kevin Sullivan beats the shit out of Eddie Gilbert in the ring. Yeah, it's not a great match. It is kind of interesting. There's some interesting little things happening in this match. You have a super hot tag eventually to Rick Steiner once he regains consciousness and realizes he's in a wrestling match again. At one point, Eddie Gilbert uses an eye rake to get out of a pin. I don't know if you caught that. I thought that was I've never seen that as a kick out maneuver to escape a
me
pin
neither.
before.
Me neither.
It's like, wow, okay. I guess they're fighting dirty, so it's fine. And it has a good finish though to it. I will give them that they put together a nice finish. The ref misses a tag to Steiner, and then Spivey comes into the ring to jump Eddie Gilbert, and then the ref turns around to force him back out of the ring. But while the ref is doing that, Steiner runs in and clotheslines Kevin Sullivan, who into a roll-up pin, and Gilbert gets the win.
Yeah, that was clever. That's when I actually had to back up and watch it again to see what actually happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, basically, once they beat up on Steiner in that initial couple of exchanges, this is sort of a handicap match, and Eddie Gilbert is in the ring by himself pretty much the whole time, and they keep him from getting the tag. So yeah, there's a big pop for that hot tag eventually. And then it doesn't get quite the heat on the missed tag that we saw on that Heart Foundation match against Demolition on the last episode, but it's pretty close.
I mean, the crowd is standing through like almost all of this match. It's insane how they're into it, and I guess Varsity Club has a whole lot more heat than what I thought they had. I think is really, really the story here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think people really hate Kevin Sullivan and some of these other guys. Well, we remember from which one was that? Chi-Town Rumble, I think, right? Kevin Sullivan.
After Scott Steiner's dog. And
yeah, what the hell? Who does that? What a dirt. So Sullivan gets a chair and threatens Missy Hyatt, which another dirt move, and Eddie eventually chases him off, and so everybody gets to celebrate. So we get to JR after the match here, sort of does some announcements to kind of wrap up what's happened. He announces that Rotunda and Steve Williams have been stripped of their titles for the attack by Sullivan during their match, and he goes on about how you can't beat up the refs, and he's drawing comparisons to other sports, and like yeah we get it, you can't beat up the refs. So that actually led to a tournament for the titles on episodes of WCW, and then the semifinal and final rounds were at Clash of the Champions 7 to establish new tag team championships. And there's no report on Flair's medical condition after that brutal attack by Terry Funk, but those two would feud and then eventually fight at the Great American Bash, which now I want to watch next. So that's kind of the aftermath of this particular event. So we're gonna just skip the best match. I think we know what that is. We don't need to talk about that.
I don't know. I want to talk about that match for another 45 minutes. Okay. Clearly, the best match was Great Muta versus Doug Gilbert.
Yeah, obviously.
No, it's definitely Ric Flair and Steamboat. But if you disqualify that match because it's kind of like a given, kind of like how it's a given that Demolition belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame, we don't even need to talk about it. My next favorite match would probably be the Dynamic Dudes versus the Samoan SWAT team.
Yeah, I think that'd be my pick too. That was a really stellar match, and again, sort of, I didn't quite expect that to be here. So, and the worst match, what do you think?
Worst match, I might actually have to throw that on Dick Murdoch versus Bob Orton in the bull rope match, mainly because it's just disappointing that it wasn't. I expected more out of that match. Not that it was really a bad match, because there really wasn't any bad matches on this card. But I probably expected more out of that one, and so I was kind of sad by that.
Yeah, that would probably be my pick too. I mean, even the Sting versus Iron Sheik, like they did what they needed to do, right? There's a little jump start. There's a little offense. There's some nice selling. There's a stinger splash and a scorpion deathlock, and it's
Right.
it's fast, but it's at least
That
it's
matches
technically.
exactly what I expected to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
And did you have an oh shit moment for this card? I don't know if I thought about this one.
probably my oh shit moment is going to be that first exchange of chops in the Ric Flair versus Steamboat, where they're going from corner to corner, chasing each other, chopping the shit out of each other for an extended period of time. That one probably got me. Oh shit, they're really going for it here, kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a beautiful one. Mine would be from that match as well. I'm not entirely sure which one. I liked Ricky running up the ropes in the middle of the damn ring. I also really liked that move where he got flipped out of the ring and it just pops like right back up and goes directly at Flair again. I'm like, holy shit, that was brilliant. Like, just no second thought, no pause, no nothing, just straight back into the aggression. So we don't really do overall ratings and stuff for these, not just WrestleMania's cards, but overall I think obviously we really enjoyed this one. It had a few down spots. It had some weird sequencing. It had some last minute changes that kind of affected the overall feel. Anything overall that you want to say about this one before we wrap up?
So since this one was like a month after the WrestleMania 5, I'm just like sitting here like flipping back and forth between the cards, and I'm just like, so like obviously WrestleMania 5 had Hogan and Savage in the main event, and that's really, so it's almost like they're really similar events, because that is, Hogan Savage is probably the equivalent, WWF equivalent to a Ric Flair Steamboat kind of match. But I don't know which one I would have liked better. I probably would have liked WrestleMania 5 better, because it's very much a contrasting product at this point too. So like you have WrestleMania 5 had 14 matches on the card, with the longest one being 17 minutes with Hogan and Randy Savage. But like that one you felt every minute of, but I could have watched Steamboat Flair go for another 15-20 minutes probably. I could have been happy with that being like an Iron Man match. So yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where I feel like we can't compare them, or really, like, you don't, like, they're really drastically different. They're different shows, different styles, different types of wrestling. Yeah, I enjoyed this show quite a bit, and now it makes you kind of understand like the old timers back in those days talking about, well, there's wrestling and then there's wrestling, and we just watched a wrestling show.
Yeah, this is definitely the latter, and you're right. They are becoming such different products. It's not even really Coke and Pepsi here anymore. It's like, I don't know, well, Coke and Sprite or something. They're just different. They've gone in different directions. They've gone for different audiences, and the stars and the talent that they push are sort of a reflection of those differences. So, but again, I really enjoyed watching this. It does make me want to watch some more, just like the Chi-Town Rumble one did. That made me want to watch more of this stuff. I think Great American Bash is going to be one on my list. We have had a listener request for Super Brawl 3, which is a WCW pay-per-view from 1993 that includes some good stuff. So if you are into this era and WCW, NWA shows, you have ones that you think we really ought to watch and review, again, give us a shout out on Twitter at WrestleMania Pod. Shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. Find us on allthewrestlemanias.com. We'd love to hear from you. So to wrap up, as we always do, let's just take a moment to pay tribute to the men and women that we've seen who are no longer with us. Our in memoriam list includes Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, Manager Gary Hart, Hacksaw Butch Reed, Dick Murdoch, Lou Thez, Pat O'Connor, Hiro Matsuda, Terry Gordy, interviewer Lance Russell, Road Warrior Animal, Road Warrior Hawk, and Dr. Death Steve Williams.
In our WrestleMania 22 episode, we erroneously listed William the Refrigerator Perry in our in memoriam section. William Perry is still alive, and we apologize for the error.
So that's our show for today. Thanks again for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time. So long.
Bye-bye.